We're going to learn about classes, and we're going to model a simple class. Let's go. We want to there's a so classes are it's just a simplification. It's a modeling tool in modeling real world things. So imagine a student is a real world thing and want to model a student. So what do you know about a student? Hmm? Let's just assume this, that a student has a name, has a class, has subjects, and has a grade. And grade as like how he's doing. So uh, what can you do on the student's class? You can get the student's name, you can get the student's grade, you can get the student's subject, you can get the student's class, that is he in grade 1, grade 2, you mean by class. Let's let's just call it as class, but with one s, class. So what can you do? You can set the name, the student's name. That's if he has changed the name. You can set his grade, but to set his grade you must be a teacher. You must have the teacher's code. You can set his subjects, and you can also set the class. But now for a fact we know that's if he's got promoted, then it means that you have to set him to the next class, then make the grade 0. So but we know for a fact that subjects, a student can do more than one subject. So let's now start modeling our class. So what we do, we call class, then student, we type student. Then after that we define init. I'm going to explain what this means. Then first finish typing self init, and it will take in self. So what's happening here? Init is a function that will initialize. It is the function that is called once an instance of the function is made. So an instance not of the function, of the class student. So I'm going to give you an analogy. It may not be the best analogy, please don't judge me or something like that. It's just a simple analogy for you to understand what an instance means. So an instance is like, let's assume copy and paste. So like you have an original file, so it is copy. So you have an original file, so you can copy it into another file, like into another replica. So the student class is like a boilerplate for students. So when you make an instance of it, it's like you are now putting in the parts to make it an actual student. So that's how I understand how a student is. Now this they are defined in it. It is the first function that will be called. So when it's called, you'll want to, the user must pass in the name, must pass in the grade, and then must pass in the subjects, and must pass in the class. The class. After that, we're going to say self dot. Now, what does self mean? Self is like, it is referring to the class student. So when you say self, you are meaning student dot, like that instance which you have created, that copy that you have created. So from that copy which you have created, so here remember this is a boilerplate, so you're not sure which copy they've created. So self is like a placeholder. So that's how I understand it, please don't judge me. So self is like a placeholder. So when you call self dot, is like that instance that you have created dot name, let it equal to name. So that instance dot name, let it equal to name. Then self dot grade, let it equal to grade. Then self dot subjects, let it first equal to an empty list. Then self dot class, let it equal to class. So why am I saying let it equal to an empty list? What if the person passes in one class? We don't want that. So you shall say if not is instance, meaning that if not is instance, that is if not is instance, the instance class is not a list, meaning that if this, not class subjects, meaning that if these subjects, let's first This one, Sublime Text wants to crash. It is crashing. It has crashed. So let's reopen it. So it has gone. So is instance. So we shall take in subjects. We shall take in list. So what we shall say that if subjects is a class. If subjects is a class, I mean if subjects not a class, if subjects is a list, let us, if it is a list here, to return true, mean that this true will make it false. So if it is a list, it will return true. So let's first put here pass. Then else, if it is not a list, it will return false, which will make this true. So then here you just have to raise an error. So we'll just say raise. So we shall have to raise an error. So we shall call exception. So what will it say? It will say invalid, let's say invalid subjects. Enter a list of subjects. So else, if it is actually a list, meaning that if this is true, it will just make it, if this is true, it will make it false. So if it makes it false, then the else will be called. So shall say self dot subjects should just equal to subjects. So that is simply it. So we have now initialized everything. Now we are going to define these methods. Get a name. So we shall define get name. Then it will pass in the argument self. It will take in the argument self. So what we shall say, we shall just return. We shall just print out. We shall just print out self.name when the person asks for the name. So then define get grade self, and we shall just print out self.grade. So what's happening here? This is called a method in a class. So it's called a method in a class. So meaning that if I had like student, then student dot something, that would be the method in the class. So if I say like, if I had made an instance and I said student dot get name, then it would get for me that name, and then it would execute this function. It will print out the actual name. So then I need to make the subjects. How to get the subjects? So I'll say define get subjects. So define get subjects. We'll take in self, and we shall print self dot subjects. So we shall define what's the which is there. We shall define get class. Shall call it get. Define get class. It's called self. And we shall just print out. Self.class. So now this function, this ones here will get those classes. Now if we want to set those ones, so we shall copy, then we shall paste. So we shall say this one here will be set name. The set name will have to take in an argument the name that you want to set. So when it takes in the name that you want to set, so you'll just say self.name will equal to name. So this will be set grade. So set grade will take in the name, and then it will take in the code. That's the teacher's code. So you will say if let's first set the code here. So we shall say here self.code let's say the code of Richards is 0 0 0 0 4 zeros. It's the weakest code ever, but let's just put that 0 0 4 0. So we shall say if self dot code is equal to code, what shall we do? We shall just say self dot what? We're setting the grade, so this let's change this variable to grade. So self dot grade will equal to grade. So else if that code is wrong, then we have to raise an error that exception. You are not permitted to change grade due to invalid code. So now we have to set the subjects. We shall just set subjects. So here it will take in the subjects you need to set, and then the code. So the teacher is the only person who can set for your subject, so that you don't easily hack the system, then you set your own subject. So we shall say if self dot code is equal to code, we shall just say self dot subjects. Now we shall first have to check whether this subjects it's the right format. So we shall say if is instance, that is meaning that if subjects is an instance of a list, then we shall just say self dot subjects will equal to subjects. Self dot subjects will equal to subjects. This is the wrong spelling. So then else if it's wrong, we just want to raise an error calling an exception that invalid subjects. Invalid subjects. So, but what if the person enters the wrong code here? Else we shall just raise this exception that you are not permitted to change. We shall just change this to subjects due to invalid code. Subjects due to invalid code. Then get set class. So to make sure that the person does not actually set himself a high class, we shall just here say we are going to make the new class, and the new class, then we shall just say self dot class so is equal to class, as if that function is called. So we have now made our simple function. To recap this, we first initialized this, the name, the grade, the subjects, then the code. Then here we first checked if subjects is a list. So when it's not a list, we raise this error. Then but if it is a list, if it's not a list, then we raise this error. Actually, if it's a list, then we do this. Self.subjects will equal to subjects. Then after we define how to a function to get the name, a function to get the subjects, like that. Then we also define the functions to set the name, set the grade. So for setting the grade, we make sure that the person has to pass in the code, and we check whether the code is the one, so that we can be able to let him change the subject. So